Nothing like relaxing to music on a Sunday afternoon. The song's visualization on the screen caught my attention. The more the number of instruments, the higher the waves. I thought, can we single out an instrument and visualize it? Or how about visualizing our familiar friends, the polynomial functions? Let's find out in today's episode. Hello everyone, you're with me Shankar on Math 11. And mathematics, as you know, is nothing more than a game of numbers. Today we will focus on learning about some special types of functions, plotting their graphs and combining various functions by defining what is the algebra of functions. And of course, Exam Decoded is also on the platter. Imagine a life without mirrors. We wouldn't know what we look like. Dressing up for school, college, office, a function would not be so much fun. Just as a mirror bounces back whatever it sees, there's a special mathematical mirror function which does this to all the inmates of its domain, maps them to themselves. This mirror in the land of mathematical functions is known as the identity function, and it takes any value of x to itself. That is, f of x is equal to x for all x in the domain. So we can say that the element x of the domain has a mirror image in the codomain. So the codomain acts as a mirror. Interesting, right? Now if this domain is the set of real numbers R, then f becomes a real function as well. For the rest of this episode, this will be your domain. So we can plot the function y is equal to f of x is equal to x in the Cartesian plane, and we get a line. This line has a 45-degree inclination. The x and y coordinates are both the same because y is equal to f of x is simply x. Well, what makes the identity function special is that every input value gives the same output value. Next, let me tell you what a constant function is. A constant function is one that maps each element of the domain to a constant. The domain of this function is all of the set of real numbers R, but the range is a singleton set containing that constant. One point worth noting is that the graph of this function is always parallel to the x-axis. It lies above the x-axis if this constant c is strictly greater than 0, below the x-axis if c less than 0, and is simply the x-axis if c is equal to 0. Let's now take a look at the graph of f of x is equal to 5. Remember, it's a constant function. It's a common mistake to think that the graph of this function is simply a point. Watch out, there's a lot more to it since this is a function. We're all aware of polynomials in algebra, but what about a polynomial function? Well, a polynomial function can be defined as y is equal to f of x is equal to a0 plus a1x plus a2x squared plus so on till an x to the power of n, where n, the highest power of x, is a non-negative integer, and the coefficients a0, a1, a2, so on till an are all real numbers. Let's check out a few polynomial functions. X plus 5, x squared minus 2x plus 1, and x cubed plus x squared minus 2x plus 1. They are all examples of polynomial functions. As you would expect, their graphs would vary with the function. If n is equal to 1, we get a linear polynomial which represents a straight line such as f of x is equal to x plus 5. And a quadratic polynomial represents a parabola. Here's the graph of f of x is equal to x squared minus 2x plus 1. Finally, a cubic polynomial looks kind of S-shaped. Take for example, f of x is equal to x cubed plus x squared minus 2x plus 1. We have been studying functions for quite some time now, but does any of you know when and what gave rise to the need to develop functions from an elementary to a much higher advanced level? No? Well, check this out. In 1746, Jean d'Alembert published a solution to the problem of a stretched, vibrating string. In the solution, he insisted that the function which described the initial velocity at every point of the string had to be continuous. But in 1749, Euler objected to this restriction, and with that began the long controversy on the nature of functions. It was only in the 18th and 19th centuries that scientists discovered the elementary functions which had their limitations. Using them, they found solutions for some important physical problems like the orbital motion of planets. However, solutions to many other physical problems could not be described with them. It was then that they came up with the more advanced form of functions that we still have today. Back. Come back from the past to the world of today and move on with functions. Do you know, just like human beings, every function has a behavior of its own. Some people are straightforward, just as the identity function, while there are those that are a little wicked, like a few polynomial functions. Then there are void ones, like f mapping everything to 0. And there are functions which are adamant in nature, like the constant functions. Having understood regular polynomial functions, let's move on to their fractions. Rational functions are functions of the type f of x over g of x, where f and g are polynomial functions. For this function to make sense, we should eliminate all those points from the domain where the denominator g of x is 0. Imagine you're standing on a number line at the point 0. Let's call it the origin. Suppose you're allowed to walk along the real line. And as you walk, the distance from the origin is plotted on the y-axis. No matter where you are to the left or the right of the origin, the distance will remain positive, right? Plot this distance and we get what is the modulus function. Let's now look at the formal definition. The modulus function f from r to r is defined by f of x is equal to x if x is greater than or equal to 0, and f of x is equal to minus x if x is less than 0. We use a special notation of vertical bars and say f of x is equal to mod x. Having let our brains function so much, I think we need a break. So while we take a break, modulate your brains for the next step, the step function. So stay tuned. Hi there, I'm Shankar and you're with me on Math 11. As I always say, every step in math counts and takes you ahead in this race to victory. So here's another step, the step function. Let's take an example. A function f from r to r is defined as follows. Given a real number x, it maps it to the value of the greatest integer less than or equal to x. Such a function is called the greatest integer function. Have a good look at the graph and you'll see that for all values of x between 1 and strictly less than 2, the value of y is 1. This phenomenon gets repeated across intervals between any two consecutive integers. It's easy to see where the name step function comes from. Just look at the graph, which looks like the steps of a staircase. Alright, before we step forward, we have a caller online for whom functions have been creating a little difficulty. So let's hear it, shall we?
Hello sir, and I want to know that why is the graph of the greatest integer function not continuous like the graph of the other functions?
Interesting question, Richa. Yes, in this graph there are and will be breaks and sudden jumps. In fact, let's take an example to demonstrate this. Take x is equal to 1. By definition, the greatest integer that is less than or equal to x is simply 1. That is, f of 1 is equal to 1. For any other value of x that lies strictly between 0 and 1, f of x will be uniformly 0. And for any value of x strictly larger than 1 and less than 2, f of x will be uniformly 1. So what we have is a discontinuity in the function at x is equal to 1. Such a discontinuity occurs at every integer. I hope that answers your question, Richa. We keep performing fundamental mathematical operations like addition and multiplication on numbers and variables every now and then. Now we'll do the same on functions also. Let's turn towards the algebra of real functions. To elaborate, we are now going to see how to add, subtract, multiply and divide two real functions. And also, how do we multiply a real function with a scalar? First, let's add two real functions. Let f and g be two real functions from a set x to the set of real numbers r, where x is a subset of r. Let the addition of f and g be denoted by f plus g, which is also a function from x to r and is defined as f plus g of x is equal to f of x plus g of x for all x in its domain. Let me explain this by taking a simple example. Let f of x is equal to x cubed and g of x is equal to x squared minus 2x plus 1. Then the function f plus g of x is equal to x plus x squared minus 2x plus 1. Every choice of x provides a specific value for each of the two functions x cubed and x squared minus 2x plus 1. Similarly, we can define the subtraction of real functions by replacing addition with negatives. If f of x is equal to x squared plus 3, g of x is equal to 3 minus x squared, then the difference f minus g of x is equal to x squared plus 3 minus 3 minus x squared, which gives us 2x squared. Next comes the multiplication by a scalar, which is a real number. Let f be a real valued function from a set x to the set of real numbers r, where x is a subset of r and k is a scalar. Then the product k times f is a function from x to r defined by k times f of x is equal to k times f of x for x belonging to x. Take for example f of x is equal to x squared and k is equal to 5. We get the new function 5f of x, which is equal to simply 5 times x squared. The product of two functions is just as intuitive. We have fg of x is equal to f of x times g of x for all x in its domain. Here's an example. Take f of x is equal to x to the power of 5 and g of x is equal to x cubed. Then fg of x is equal to x to the power of 8. Now we are left with only one operation, and that is division. Let's consider the same real functions f and g. Then f over g of x is equal to f of x over g of x. Of course, careful about the denominator. The choices of x where g of x vanishes do not belong to the domain of the quotient function. Let's take this simple example as in the last part. F of x is equal to x to the power of 5 and g of x is equal to x cubed. Then f over g of x is simply x squared. It's time now for a break, but don't go away. There's still more coming up for you after the break, and I'm sure you're raring to check out the rapid fire round in the exam decoded segment. See you in a bit. everyone, welcome back to Math 11. I'm Shankar, your travel guide to this world of mathematics. Before I tell you the secret of scoring more in this topic, let's have a short recap of what we've already covered so far. The graph of a function is obtained by plotting the set of ordered pairs x, f of x in the Cartesian plane. An identity function takes every element to itself, and a constant function takes every element to that constant. The step function f of x assumes the value of the greatest integer less than or equal to x. Two functions f and g from R to R can be combined using standard algebraic operations. Marks are important, and to get marks, understanding the subject is also important. So let me test your understanding of today's topic, beginning with the rapid fire round in the exam decoded segment. You know the drill. 5 questions, 1 mark each. Here's the first one. The modulus function f of x is equal to mod of x always yields a positive answer for non-zero values of x. True or false? The answer is true. Fabulous. Here's question 2. The range of a constant function has only one element. True or false? Correct again. True. It's a singleton. Here's question 3. Let G be a function in relational form given by the set of ordered pairs 1, 1, 2, 3, minus 2, minus 5, and minus 1, minus 3. Let G also be given by G of x is equal to ax plus b. Then A and B are option A, 1 and 2, option B, minus 2 and 3, option C, 2 and negative 1, option D, 1 and 5. I'm impressed. Yes, the answer is C. Here's question 4. If f of x is equal to x squared and g of x is equal to x are two functions from R to R, then fg of 2 is given by option A, 4, option B, 2, option C, 1, option D, 8. Option D is absolutely right. Give yourself 1 mark. And here's question 5. Let f and g be real functions given by f of x is equal to sin x, g of x is equal to cosine x respectively. Then f plus g of x is given by option A, sin plus cosine of x, option B, sin x plus cosine x, option C, sin cosine x, option D, sin x plus cosine x times x. Option B is correct again. Well done. Check your scores. You're a high flyer with 5 points. As an achiever with 3 or 4, you're close. Just keep practicing. Points below 3 means you're a learner. And there's nothing to worry. Hard work is the key to success. Visit topperlearning.com and you will find plenty of online quizzes and other helpful material. This topic is a part of the unit Sets and Functions, which is worth 29 marks in the final exam. And you can expect a 4-mark question. This topic tests your conceptual ability and representation skills at the same time. Well, now let us take a look at how to write an ideal answer for a question based on representation skill. Let's say you're asked to draw the graph of absolute value of x plus 1. This question carries 4 marks. We know that the function f from R to R given by fy is equal to absolute value of y is defined as f of y is equal to y for y greater than or equal to 0 and is equal to minus y for y less than 0. Now replacing y by x plus 1 where x is any real number, we get f of x plus 1 is equal to x plus 1 if x plus 1 greater than or equal to 0 is equal to minus x plus 1 if x plus 1 less than 0. Now this means f of x plus 1 is equal to x plus 1 for x greater than or equal to minus 1 and minus x minus 1 for x less than minus 1. We can now make a table of values for plotting the graph. So here's how the graph of x plus 1 looks like when we plot the points. The graph is symmetrical about the line x is equal to minus 1 and lies above the x-axis. This is how you should go about the whole answer while attempting, so that it fetches you complete 4 marks. And to pave the way for your success, we have with us today's special guest who has some cool tips for you. Listen carefully.
Thank you, Shankar. I would like to tell your students where they generally lose their marks so that they can avoid these mistakes. The most common error the students commit are, while attempting questions on graphs, the students forget to take notice on any small change made by the examiner on the function rule. Example, the graphs of y equals to mod x and y equals to mod of x minus 2 looks more or less the same, but they are different in properties like the point of intersection with the x-axis and the line of symmetry, and ignoring this aspect will give them an incorrect graph. Other thing is, while doing questions on algebra of functions, the students forget to mention the domain in the same and lose marks. So just be careful, and best of luck to all of you.
And that's all I have for you today. But before I leave, there's one more thing I wanted to say. And this one by far is the most important, so hear me out. Malcolm Forbes, the publisher of Forbes magazine, once said, "Education's purpose is to replace an empty mind with an open one." So give math a chance, and you never know what it might do for you. Stay open-minded, keep working and learning from those mistakes. Goodbye and cheers.